Live NFL trivia every Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge for a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. Remember when this happened last week? Everything about how this play went down and how this game ended was absolutely hysterical to anyone who was not a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. When you have no timeouts, the last thing you want to do with that little amount of time is run up the middle, because the odds that you're going to be able to get back to the line in time to spike it are very slim. I'm not saying it can't be done, and if Prescott slides down earlier and actually knows who to hand the ball to, it could happen, but a lot has to go right. It's not impossible, but if you're relying on this as a strategy, it's probably not the best idea. And I think 49ers fans who were enjoying the chaotic ending to the game were probably laughing and thinking about how something like this could possibly happen. How could a team be dumb enough to call a running play with 14 seconds left and no timeouts, knowing that they needed to stop the clock, and knowing that the game was hanging in the balance? And the answer to that question is, quite simply, I don't know. Why don't you ask the Niners? Because more than a quarter century ago, they did just that, although 100 times worse. Prepare yourselves for one of the stupidest and worst play calls you're ever going to see in your life. January 6, 1996. It's the divisional round of the playoffs, and we have a matchup on our hands between the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. I think just about all of America is expecting that by the time this weekend is done, for the 4th straight year, we will see the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers playing against each other in the NFC Championship. Not many people are giving Green Bay a chance, as they enter this game as 9.5-point underdogs, and they enter this game having not been to the NFC or NFL Championship since all the way back in 1967, before the merger even happened. Plus, this is a San Francisco team that has made it to the NFC Championship not just in each of the past 3 seasons, but has done so in 6 of the past 7 seasons, and had just won the Super Bowl the year before. It was going to take an almost flawless performance for the Packers to upset Goliath and walk out of San Francisco with a win. But to the shock of everyone, the Packers come out firing on all cylinders. Even though the Packers drive down the field on the first drive and walk away empty-handed following a blocked field goal, which was the last time that a 49er blocked a field goal against a Packer in a playoff game, it did not matter, as on San Francisco's first play of the game, they turn it over. After Adam Walker fumbled the football, Craig Newsome scored the first and only touchdown of his career by taking it 31 yards to the house to give Green Bay an early 7-0 lead. The Niners go 3 and out on their next drive, and Green Bay responds by needing just 5 plays to drive 62 yards. Thanks to some great football by Brett Favre, who went 3 for 3 on the drive, and thanks to a 3-yard touchdown pass to Keith Jackson at the end of the drive, the Packers are now up 14-0. San Francisco needs something here to turn the momentum around, but what they get is the exact opposite. After failing to cross midfield and being forced to punt the ball away, the Packers once again drive down the field, with Favre going 4 for 4 on the drive, and hitting Mark Chmura on a 13-yard touchdown pass. We're just a few minutes into the second quarter, and the underdog Packers are stunning the 49ers, and are up 21-0. San Francisco only gets 3 points on their next 2 drives, meaning that they're still down by 18 points with a minute left in the half and the ball at their own 10-yard line. Things are looking bleak, but after Steve Young does Steve Young things and runs for 41 yards, the Niners are now in Green Bay territory. A score here would be absolutely huge. If you can get it down to a 15-point game and get it within 2 scores, especially since you get the ball to start the second half, you're right back in the ballgame. Eventually, the Niners are faced with 4th and 3 on the 42-yard line of the Packers. They have no timeouts, so it's absolutely imperative that if they go for it, which they do, that they call a play that will not only get them the requisite yardage, but will stop the clock, or at the very least, give them a chance to stop the clock. There's only 11 seconds left, so you figure you have to work the sideline and let Steve Young do his thing. But who am I to question the Niners? They've been so good for so long, and they've consistently had innovative offenses. I'm sure they've got something good here on this all-important 4th down. Alright, San Francisco, let's see what you got.
And the give is to Lavelle. Oh, that's a big call. And a first down. Wayne Simmons makes the stop. They're going to run out of time. 3, 2, 1. I didn't get it. And that'll do it.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something that looked bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something that looked awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work, and sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of San Francisco 49ers head coach George Seifert. After an incredible first start to his career, where he won a Super Bowl right off the bat with one of the most dominant teams of all time, and where he won Super Bowl 29 the year before this incident, everything went downhill. You had his disastrous stint in Carolina that might have single-handedly kept him out of the Hall of Fame. You had his awful stint with CBS as a commentator, where he was so bad that the network flat out told him not to show up to work anymore, firing him in the middle of the season. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. But as bad as all of that was, if you made the argument that this was the worst thing that George Seifert ever did in his career, honestly, I wouldn't blame you or argue with you a whole lot. This decision was that bad and that mind-bogglingly stupid that I'm in awe that he seriously thought this was a good idea. So with that being said, let's look at why calling a running play on 4th and 3 with no timeouts and 11 seconds left is a really bad idea. As always, the thing I love to look at most in these situations is the risk-reward factor, and what would have had to happen for this play to work as intended. The more realistic the outcome, and the more the reward outweighs the risk, the more likely I am to defend it. As you can probably guess by the title of this video, however, we're in the complete opposite territory. There are many parts about this play that make no sense, but the part about this play that baffles me the most is the fact that this is a no-win situation. By calling this play, literally there was no possible way, regardless of the outcome, that the play works as intended. Let's start with what happens if the play fails. If Derek Lavelle gets stopped and doesn't pick up the requisite 3 yards, then you're turning it over on downs, and you're giving the Packers the ball near midfield. Green Bay needs about 15 yards at that point to have a shot at a long field goal. So you figure that if this play fails and Brett Favre does what he's been doing all day and carves you up, the Packers are walking away with 3 more points. And now instead of being down 21-3, you're down 24-3, and down by 3 full touchdowns plus the extra point. However, that's the risk you take anytime you go for it on 4th down near midfield. And I would have gone for it. Granted, I would have called something entirely different, but I would have gone for it. Going for it on 4th down makes sense if by getting the first down, the reward of success outweighs the risk of failure. So let's say that the Niners get the first down and the play works as designed. Congratulations! You have no time left to call a play! The Niners literally would have been better off punting the ball away versus calling a play. The Niners would have been better off not calling a play period versus calling this play. I don't get the logic behind this. If you get stuffed, the Packers get it near midfield. And if you get the first down, the half is over. I want to go back to the 49ers-Cowboys ending. At least with that play, even though I don't agree with it at all, there is a scenario where that play works. For that play to work, Prescott with 14 seconds left has to slide down untouched, then hand the ball to the ref and spike it in time. People, and rightfully so, thought that relying on that was ambitious. What do you call this then? For this play to work, Derek Lavelle with 11 seconds left had to then shake off a defender who would have naturally been on top of him after the tackle, and then get the ball down in time to spike it. The Cowboys had 3 more seconds and didn't have to worry about a body or a pile of bodies on top of the ball carrier. Under no universe was this play gonna work. The only way you win in this scenario, because there was no way that a run up the middle was ever gonna get you out of bounds, is if you score a touchdown on this run. Let's look at how likely it was gonna be that Derek freaking Lavelle was gonna score from 42 yards out in this position. What you're watching right now is every single rushing attempt in the first half prior to that final play that Lavelle had so far. He had 5 carries. On those 5 carries, he picked up 5 yards. That's abysmal. That's pathetic. Hang on, I'm getting a call from my producer. Wait? No, that can't be right. Seriously? Okay. Let me try that again. I'm sorry guys, because I misspoke. On those 5 carries, he picked up -5 yards! -5 yards! If you're watching this video and your name is not Derek Lavelle, congratulations! You had more rushing yards at this point than he did! Heck, I had more rushing yards at this point than he did, and I was not even alive yet! I wasn't even conceived yet! And yet, despite all of that, the only way that this play could have actually worked out, because again, if you call this is going to be the last play of the half, is if the man that had -5 yards and had his longest run of the day go for 1 total yard went for 42 yards. Considering all of that, the fact that Lavelle didn't get stuffed here and actually got enough yards to not give Green Bay the ball back is a minor miracle in itself. But okay, maybe he's just having a bad game. It could be like a Derrick Henry or Adrian Peterson situation, where their style makes them somewhat prone to having a bunch of runs that go nowhere, but then they bust one free for a big gain. So let's see what Lavelle did at that point in his career. Lavelle's first professional football game was on September 9th, 1990, when he was a member of the Seattle Seahawks and got 2 carries against the Chicago Bears for 6 yards in a 17-0 defeat. It is now January 6, 1996, so it's been 1,946 days. That should give us a pretty big sample size to work with. In those nearly 2,000 days, give or take, that Lavelle has technically been in the NFL, including the playoffs and including the first half, he carried the ball 282 times. on those 282 carries. You want to know what the longest one was? 27 yards. That's it. Remember, the only way this play was going to work is if Derek Lavelle picked up 42 yards. So let me get this straight. His career high is 27, and you call a play where the only possible scenario it can work is if he not only sets his career high, but breaks that number by an additional 55%. The man who never even so much as had a 32-yard run needs to get a 42-yard run, or else the play doesn't work. It doesn't get any stupider than that. Oh wait, it kinda does! Because the other part of the equation that we have to look at when breaking this play down is what the 49ers decided not to do, which is call a pass play to try and get out of bounds and then kick the field goal. Who's the quarterback that the Niners, for some reason, decided not to trust? And who did the Niners decide to take the ball from the hands of? Steve Young! They trusted Derek Lavelle to smash a career high more than they trusted Steve Young to do the right thing. This is despite the fact that Young had won multiple MVPs by this point. This is despite the fact that at this moment, Young was arguably the best quarterback in all of football. This is despite the fact that Young led the league in completion percentage and passing yards per game during that 1995 season. Taking the ball out of the hands of Steve Young so that you could call a run up the middle with Derek freaking Lavelle, knowing that anything less than a touchdown would have been your last play of the half, is one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. And any way you want to slice it, it makes no sense. The Niners lost this game 27-17. And as great as the Packers played, with play calls like this, it's not hard to see why. So what do we learn from all this? If you have no timeouts and 11 seconds left, do not, under any circumstances, call a run up the middle. How a two-time Super Bowl winning head coach didn't recognize this, I have no clue. But this is where we are. If you have the option to put the game in the hands of one of two people, and one of those people is a guy who's not very good and who had fewer rushing yards at that point than every fan at 3Com Park did, and the other guy is a two-time MVP bound for the Hall of Fame, who might be the best player in the sport, choose that person. If you're calling a play where it literally would have made more sense to not call a play, maybe rethink that strategy. If the only way your play can possibly work is if the player in question needs to eclipse their career longest play by more than 50%, maybe try literally anything else instead, because it's not going to work. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes, link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9, and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.